I've watched thousands of traders blow up their accounts, and I'm going to tell you something that nobody else will admit. The market doesn't care about your dreams, your bills, or your family. It's a cold, calculating machine designed to transfer money from the impatient to the patient, from the emotional to the disciplined, and from the hopeful to the prepared. Right now, while you're listening to this, someone just lost their entire trading account because they believed success would come easy. They thought they were different, smarter, or luckier than everyone else who failed before them. Every single successful trader you've ever heard of went through a phase so brutal, so psychologically devastating, that most people quit before they even understand what's happening to them. This isn't some motivational speech where I tell you to believe in yourself and keep pushing forward. This is the raw truth about what happens to your brain, your emotions, and your bank account when you enter the most dangerous profession in the world. The painful stage I'm talking about isn't just about losing money, though you'll definitely lose plenty of that. It's about the complete destruction of everything you thought you knew about making money, about yourself, and about how the world actually works. When you first start trading, you're operating on pure ignorance, and ignorance is actually bliss in this game. You place a few trades, maybe you win some, maybe you lose some, but you haven't lost enough yet to be afraid. You're still excited. Your hands don't shake when you click the buy button. You can still sleep at night because you haven't experienced real pain yet. This honeymoon phase is where the market is studying you, learning your patterns, figuring out exactly how to destroy you later. The market is like a predator watching prey, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Then something shifts. You start losing more than you're winning. Your account balance starts trending downward, and this is where the real education begins. But here's what nobody tells you about this phase. You won't just lose money. You'll lose your confidence, your relationships, your sleep, and your sense of self-worth. You'll stare at charts at 3 a.m. wondering what's wrong with you, because every trade you place seems to move against you the second you enter. You'll watch the market move exactly the way you predicted, but you'll be too scared to take the trade, and then you'll watch it make exactly the money you needed while you sat on your hands paralyzed by fear. The painful stage reveals something terrifying about human psychology that most people never discover about themselves. Your brain is hardwired to fail at trading. Evolution spent millions of years programming your mind to seek immediate gratification, avoid pain at all costs, and follow the crowd for safety. Those instincts kept your ancestors alive when they were running from predators and hunting for food. But those same instincts will absolutely destroy you in the markets. When you're losing money, your primitive brain screams at you to cut your losses immediately, to run from the pain, to seek safety. When you're making money, that same brain tells you to grab your profits right now before they disappear, to secure the reward immediately. But successful trading requires you to do the exact opposite of what your instincts demand. You need to let your losses run small while you figure out if you're wrong, and you need to let your winners run big even when your brain is screaming at you to take the money and run. This contradiction between what you need to do and what every fiber of your being wants to do creates a psychological torture that most people simply cannot endure. You'll find yourself taking profits at $10 because you're afraid of losing what you have, and then you'll watch that same trade run to $500 without you. The next time you'll hold on stubbornly to a losing trade because you don't want to admit you were wrong, and you'll turn a small loss into a devastating one. The market will teach you about yourself in ways you never wanted to learn. You'll discover that you're more emotional than you thought, more impulsive than you believed, and weaker than you hoped. You'll make rules for yourself and break them the same day. You'll promise yourself you'll stick to your plan, and then you'll abandon it the moment you feel fear or greed. You'll tell yourself you're disciplined, and then you'll revenge trade your account down to nothing because you got angry at a loss. This isn't a character flaw. This is being human. The difference between traders who make it and traders who don't isn't that successful traders don't feel these emotions. They feel them just as intensely. The difference is they've learned to act despite what they're feeling. During the painful stage, you'll experience something called the valley of despair. This is the point where you've been trading long enough to lose significant money, but not long enough to have developed real skills. You know enough to be dangerous to yourself, but not enough to be profitable. You've read all the books, watched all the videos, bought all the courses, and yet you're still losing money. This is where most people quit. They decide trading isn't for them. They tell themselves they're not cut out for this. They convince themselves it's all a scam or that only insiders can make money. They create elaborate stories to protect their ego from the truth, which is simply that they quit before they finished learning. What makes the valley of despair so dangerous is that it looks exactly like failure, but it's actually the necessary passage to success. Every single profitable trader went through this exact phase. They all thought about quitting. They all questioned whether it was worth it. They all wondered if they were just throwing good money after bad. The only difference is they kept going. They kept studying, kept practicing, kept analyzing their mistakes, and kept refining their approach. They understood that losing money was tuition admission, not failure. Every losing trade was a lesson, not a tragedy. Every mistake was data, not a judgment of their worth as a person. The painful stage will destroy your ego, and this is actually a good thing because your ego is your enemy in trading. Your ego makes you think you're smarter than the market. Your ego makes you risk too much because you can't imagine being wrong. Your ego makes you refuse to take losses because admitting you were wrong feels like admitting you're stupid. The market doesn't care about your ego. It doesn't care if you went to Harvard or dropped out of high school. It doesn't care if you're a doctor or a janitor. It treats everyone with equal brutality until they learn to respect it. The traders who survive are the ones who let the market humble them completely, who accept that they know nothing, and who approach every single trade with respect and caution. Here's what actually happens during the painful stage that transforms amateurs into professionals. You start keeping a trading journal, not because someone told you to, but because you're desperate to figure out what you're doing wrong. You start reviewing your trades obsessively, looking for patterns in your losses. You begin to notice that you always exit winners too early when you're trading during lunch, or that you always over-leverage on Monday mornings, or that you always chase breakouts that fail. These patterns emerge from the chaos only after you've made the same mistake dozens of times. You can't learn these lessons by reading about them. You have to feel the pain of making these mistakes over and over until the lesson burns itself into your nervous system. You'll also learn that trading is not about being right. It's about making money. These are completely different things, and most people never understand this distinction. You can be right about market direction and still lose money if your timing is wrong, if your position size is too large, if you don't manage your risk properly, or if you exit too early. You can also be completely wrong about market direction and still make money if you cut your losses quickly and let your occasional winners run. Professional traders are often wrong more than they're right. They just make sure their winners are much bigger than their losers. But your ego doesn't want to accept being wrong most of the time. Your ego wants to be right. Your ego wants to predict the future. Your ego wants to tell everyone you called the market perfectly. This is why your ego has to die before you can succeed. The financial cost of the painful stage varies, but most traders who eventually become successful report losing between $10,000 and $50,000 before they figure things out. Some lose more, some lose less, but almost everyone loses a meaningful amount of money. This isn't money you lose to scams or bad brokers. This is money you lose to your own mistakes, to your lack of discipline, to your emotional decisions, and to your incomplete education. This money is gone forever, and you have to make peace with that. You have to stop thinking of it as money you lost and start thinking of it as tuition you paid to learn the most valuable skill in the world. Medical students pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn how to be doctors. Lawyers pay similar amounts to learn their profession. Why would you expect to learn how to extract money from the most competitive arena in the world for free? The psychological cost is even higher than the financial cost. During the painful stage, you'll question your intelligence. You'll compare yourself to others who seem to be succeeding while you're struggling. You'll feel shame about your losses. You'll hide your trading from friends and family because you don't want them to know you're failing. You'll feel isolated because nobody around you understands what you're going through. The people in your life will tell you to quit, to get a real job, to stop wasting your time and money. They mean well, but they don't understand that you're in the middle of a transformation. You're not the same person who started trading. You're becoming someone different, someone stronger, someone capable of handling pressure and uncertainty that most people can't even imagine. Sleep becomes difficult during this phase. You'll wake up at night thinking about trades you lost money on. You'll replay your mistakes over and over, each time feeling the sting of regret. You'll dream about charts and price action. Your relationships will suffer because you're distracted and stressed. Your partner won't understand why you're staring at a screen for hours making decisions that seem to matter so much but they can't comprehend. You'll snap at people you love because you're carrying the weight of your losses and your fear that you might never figure this out. This is the price of admission to professional trading. This is what the successful traders paid, and this is what you have to be willing to pay if you want what they have. But something miraculous starts to happen if you persist through the painful stage. Your losses start to get smaller, not because you're winning more, but because you're losing less. You start cutting losses faster because you felt the pain of holding losers too long. You start taking partial profits because you've watched too many winners turn into losers. You start following your rules because you've seen what happens when you don't. Your emotional responses start to quiet down. A losing trade that would have ruined your entire week 6 months ago now barely registers. You're developing what psychologists call emotional resilience and what traders call scar tissue. The market is still hitting you, but you've been hit so many times that you know how to take a punch. You start to develop pattern recognition that you can't explain to anyone else. You look at a chart and you just know something is about to happen. You can't articulate calculate why. You haven't consciously identified a setup, but your subconscious has processed thousands of similar situations, and it's giving you an intuitive read. This is the beginning of real skill. This is your brain finally adapting to the environment. This is what you paid for with all those losses. You couldn't have downloaded this knowledge. You couldn't have bought it. You had to earn it through painful experience. Your position sizing becomes more conservative without you consciously deciding to change it. You used to risk 5% of your account on every trade because you wanted to get rich quick. Now you risk 1% because you've learned that survival is more important than glory. You used to take every setup that looked remotely promising. Now you wait for perfect setups because you understand that the best trade is often the one you don't take. You used to trade because you were bored or because you felt like you should be doing something. Now you trade only when your edge is present and you're completely comfortable sitting in cash for days or weeks if necessary. The painful stage ends not with a dramatic moment of success, but with a subtle shift in your relationship with the market. You stop fighting it and start flowing with it. You stop trying to impose your will on price action and start responding to what's actually happening. You stop predicting and start reacting. You stop hoping and start planning. You stop trading with your heart and start trading with your head. You realize that the market doesn't owe you anything, that it's not out to get you personally, and that it's simply offering opportunities to those who are prepared and taking money from those who aren't. The traders who make it through the painful stage share certain characteristics. They're intensely self-aware. They know their weaknesses, and they build systems to protect themselves from their own worst impulses. They're humble enough to accept that they'll never master the market completely, that they'll always be students, and that every day presents new lessons. They're disciplined enough to follow their rules even when everything inside them wants to break those rules. They're patient enough to wait for their edge. They're courageous enough to take trades when their system signals even if they're afraid. They're resilient enough to bounce back from losses without spiraling into emotional trading. Most importantly, they've learned to separate their self-worth from their trading results. A losing trade doesn't make them a bad person. A winning trade doesn't make them a genius. They're simply executing a process that over time and over many trades produces more money than it loses. Some days they'll lose. Some weeks they'll lose. Maybe even some months they'll lose. But they trust their process because they've back-tested it, they've forward-tested it, they've refined it, and they know that if they execute it properly over a sufficient sample size, they'll be profitable. This trust in process over outcomes is what separates amateurs from professionals. The painful stage isn't optional. You can't skip it by reading more books or buying more courses or finding the perfect strategy. You have to go through it. You have to feel the pain. You have to make the mistakes. You have to lose the money. You have to experience the doubt and the fear and the frustration. This is how your brain rewires itself to think like a trader instead of like a normal person. This is how you develop the emotional fortitude to hold positions when they're profitable even though your instincts scream at you to exit. This is how you learn to cut losses quickly even though admitting you're wrong feels terrible. If you're currently in the painful stage, understand that this is exactly where you're supposed to be. You're not behind. You're not stupid. You're not unlucky. You're in the middle of the most important education of your life. Every trader you admire went through exactly what you're going through right now. They felt exactly what you're feeling. They doubted themselves just like you're doubting yourself. The only difference is they didn't quit. They kept showing up. They kept learning from their mistakes. They kept refining their process. They kept moving forward even when everything in them wanted to give up. The market is teaching you lessons that will serve you for the rest of your life, far beyond trading. It's teaching you discipline, patience, emotional control, risk management, and how to function under pressure. These skills will make you better in every area of your life. The confidence you gain from surviving the painful stage and emerging profitable will change how you approach every challenge. You'll know that you can do hard things. You'll know that you can overcome obstacles that stop most people. You'll know that you can master skills that seem impossible at first. So embrace the painful stage. Don't resist it. Don't try to rush through it. Learn everything it has to teach you. Document your mistakes. Analyze your trades. Study your emotional patterns. Build your systems. Refine your process. Protect your capital. Stay humble. Stay hungry. Stay committed to becoming the trader you know you can be. The pain is temporary, but the skills you're building will last forever. This is your transformation. This is your crucible. This is where traders are forged.